Hey, welcome to Swell Academy. Today we're going to be talking about ordering fractions. Now, what I want to do is give you a number sense when it comes to fractions, what we're looking at. If you just want to know simply how to turn them into decimals and order the fractions and using a calculator, you could skip to the end. But if you want to get a better understanding, this will help you deal with a variety of different problems and maybe increase your estimation skills. Just follow along with what I'm about to show you. First, I want to do is break up. We're using teams, and each team has two members or two players thus far. Let's say we have a team of 3, but right now we only have 2 members present. We're missing 1 member. Let's say we look at a team of 4, or let's say team of 5. I want to look at a team of 5 here. That would mean we're missing 3 players to our team, right? And then let's say we look at a team of 4 and we're missing 2 players here. So this is basically a visual representative of fractions here, okay? You have 2 of 3, 2 out of 3. You have 2 out of 5. And you have 2 out of 4, and all 3 of these represent different things. Now, if you're ordering fractions, usually what's being asked of you is to order from least to greatest. So if you look at this and you look at these teams, and you say, okay, which one has the least amount of players in order to make up a team? Well, here we need 3 more players. Here we need 2 more players. Here we only need 1. So here we have the least amount of players to make up this full team. We only have 2 out of 5. We're missing 3. So we'll say this is our least fraction because we have the least amount of players needed to make up a team. And then here we need only 2 more players. We could say this would be our next fraction here, least to greatest, and we could look at it here. And this is how you could order your fractions from least to greatest. Now, I made it easy because we looked at this question in which the numerator was all the same. So we were able to compare our denominator, which I'm about to show you is what makes up the size of your pieces. So let's look at those same fractions. Let's look at the let's say first we'll look at the 2 out of 4, but now let's break it up into pies, right? Let me get a better color here. Break this up into pies like we're doing. So here's our fourths, okay? And then here's our thirds. I don't know if these are entirely equal, but they're as close as I can get them. Fifths is the toughest to make. I usually make this and 1 line here, and that's my fifths there. Best I could do. So usually what I do is I draw a little triangle here and something a little less than 180, and here's our fifths. Now, if you see what I was talking about is that these numbers at the bottom of your denominator are what make up how big or how small the fractional pieces are of your whole. Because essentially all these fractions is a representation of a whole, right? 4 out of 4. This whole circle here, or maybe if I just drew it over here, this, if I didn't break it up into any pieces, this is what would represent for us as a whole, a 1 whole piece. So we're breaking this up into pieces. If you see, the smaller the number, the bigger the piece. So that's a good thing to think about, because if the number's bigger, okay, then I recognize that the pieces are smaller. So again, if I had the same denominator, the one with the most of the smallest number, right? If you look back, remember 2/3 was our biggest fraction. And that's because we had the most of the smallest number, let's say, this denominator. We had 2. Now if I colored in for here was 2/3, here was 2/4, and here was 2/5. And if you see, here we have the most amount of the whole that's made up. So it is important to understand these numbers are kind of determining what your pieces are being made up of. Now, let's look at a fraction like 4/6 and 3/4, right? And you want to make an estimation. Okay, which of these is greater? Some students would probably say 4/6 because these numbers are close and you have more of these pieces. But in actuality, when you think about it, here you have 4/6, right? So you have a little bit more than half. And here's your 3/4. And here you have we definitely have more here, right? So this is actually our greater number here. And here, this is where, again, I'm showing you have less, right, in comparison to 4. But since this number's smaller, you in actuality have more. Now, you know, like I said, to finish this and to kind of sum this all up, and one way to solve for ordering fractions is to turn an easiest way, basically probably best way for SAT method here, right? When you get to taking an SAT or whatnot, is you want to take these fractions like this 2/3, right? 2/3, and you want to divide. So I'm going to take this 2/3, and I'm going to take the top number and put it inside and divide by the bottom number. And in order to, if a number is bigger on the outside than a number on the inside, you need to add a decimal and a 0. And then you're going to find out how many times does 3 go into 220, not 2, and we would say 6, which would be 18. And then what you would see is add a 0, you would end up with a repeating decimal here. And so, and then let's continue going forward, and then let's look at the 2/4, where we're taking the bottom number, putting it on the outside, and the top number to the fraction, top and bottom, I mean top and bottom 2 and 4. Add the decimal and the 0, goes in 5 times. Nothing left over, so it's just simply 0.5. Here we had 0.66. It was repeating. And then here we have the 2/5, taking the top and bottom, and this goes in 4 times. Now, again, I like to explain to you guys what this means. So we convert this 2/5 into 0.4 as a decimal. What does that mean? Well, 0.4 can be written as 4/10, right? And that means you have 4/10 of a whole. So what this is basically saying is 1, 2, 3. If I were to break this up, 2/5 would basically look like 4/10 if all 10s made up that whole. So when I have 2/4, and then if you see, if I broke this up, same thing out of 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I fill in 5/10. Each of these boxes is worth a 1/10, right? And all 10 of these 10ths will give you a whole. You see, I would have more here with the 2/4. So another way to visually look at, okay, how did I convert this 2/5? Well, I convert it into 10ths, and what do I have more of? And you'd see, right, if we're looking at these 3 numbers as decimals, well, this is the smallest number, 0.4. This is my second biggest number, and this is my greatest number. And that was what we had in the beginning when we had 2/5, 2/4, and 2/3. And that's kind of, you know, this is the way you're going to kind of solve your questions, but the understanding going backwards with the pies and what represents and what the bottom number is doing in respect to the top number, these are all things that you want to be thinking about when solving this. Remember, math is easy with hard work. Thanks for stopping by.